Warning, this episode is on the darkest recesses of the deep web, also known as the shadow web. This video contains true stories of horrific acts on humans and animals. These include, but are not limited to, torture, murder, severe abuse, and rape. This episode is strictly for educational purposes. Do not attempt to access the sites within. Doing so could result in long-lasting emotional trauma and legal repercussions. If you feel you cannot handle what is ahead, I advise you to leave this video now. What you see on the internet on a daily basis is just the tip of the iceberg, and true evil exists just below the surface. A place dedicated to the predators your parents warned you about as a child. Known by many in the community as Violent Desires, this deep web forum was once a dark and demented sanctuary to pedophiles, rapists, and murderers. This was a community dedicated to men and women who frequently enjoyed swapping their sick fantasies while discussing future plans on exactly how to kidnap, torture, rape, and murder children under the age of 17. A disturbing post titled "Lolita Slave Toy" by an anonymous user describes the gruesome act of an anonymous surgeon who lived to mutilate young girls, turning them into dehumanized sex dolls. His primary source to seek out victims were generally orphanages based in the outskirts of Eastern Europe. His preference were young female children just under the age of 9 or girls who had not yet reached puberty. Once he was able to get a hold of a female victim, he would place them under anesthesia, where the child would undergo a lengthy, life-changing operation consisting of amputating each limb, disabling the child from ever being able to walk on their own ever again. Upon removal of the arms and legs, he would then go on to cut open the girl's flesh, placing metal rods into her bones, which would eventually serve to allow the child to be held up by chains installed at the end of the amputated limbs. Vocal cords in every tooth is then extracted, prohibiting the child from talking and allowing the buyer to feed the child. This concludes the torturous physical transformation from child to immobilized human doll. However, the child is eventually forced to engage in sexual acts for the sole purpose of pleasuring their buyer. Each child doll is listed at $30,000 to $40,000 American dollars, according to the anonymous surgeon. Dutch police under the National Investigator Services were able to successfully seize the entire forum in 2011, temporarily preventing the individuals from sharing further activity. However, no matter how many times a site such as this is taken down, users continue replacing what was lost, creating new sites to continue their work. Looking for a new identity or perhaps weapons and narcotics? Well, you might have come to the right place. Identity services are readily available to anyone interested in the world of identity theft. With a few easy clicks, hackers are able to collect personal information from a number of people with the use of databases tied to banks and confidential security systems. Social security numbers, passports, driver's licenses, and credit cards from around the world are then placed for sale under markets such as the Onion Identity Services or the Silk Road for thousands of dollars to be distributed and bought with Bitcoin, an online currency accepted on the deep web. In October of 2013, Ross Ulbricht, the founder of Silk Road, one of the largest black markets for weaponry and narcotics, was tracked and arrested by the FBI at Glen Park Library in San Francisco. His charges included money laundering, computer hacking, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, and attempting to kill 6 people through the use of online assassins. Though his murder charges were dropped, he was eventually sentenced to life imprisonment on May 2015 and now settles in the Metropolitan Detention Center of Brooklyn, New York. The Silk Road black market was seized upon his arrest, but was eventually reopened. Underground deep web markets are now heavily monitored in hopes of tracking down illegal distributors. You can't normally put a price on someone's life, but here you can. Hundreds of organized criminal groups linger the deep web, making it common for just about anyone to stumble upon listings to hire skillful hitmen around the world. Prices range depending on the type of person, whether the target is widely known in society or not. Many sites claim to be run by organizations consisting of former soldiers and mercenaries from from the French Foreign Legion. However, many users on the deep web have reported being scammed by fake assassin listings or have been arrested by undercover federal police. On November 12, 2013, Stepan Ananyakin, a successful Armenian businessman living in Russia, was apprehended by Moscow police after being suspected of hiring hitmen to kill 6 individuals responsible for the death of his son, who was severely beaten and run over in 2008. For 2 months, the Moscow Criminal Investigation Department tracked every move he made over the internet after claiming he would pay 300,000 rubles for each hit made. Police were able to fake the death of a target initiated by Stepan in order to communicate with him online, eventually leading them to him. Pleading not guilty to his acts in court, Stepan is currently facing prison time. However, the whereabouts of where he is doing his time is currently unknown to the public for the safety of him and his family members. Before you send intimate photos of yourself to anyone, consider this. Home to all things blackmail, Pink Meth goes above and beyond when exploiting the lives of innocent women. Hackers initiate their destruction by spending hours retrieving as much vital information on the victim that can be accessed from the designated IP address, containing the exact whereabouts on the victim, personal phone numbers, emails, and passwords linked to social media accounts, and the information on any job or school that the person is affiliated with. Images and video files are also taken off of their hard drive without the consent of the victim. Even a simple switch on the webcam allows the anonymous hacker to take images of the female without any knowledge of them knowing what's about to happen to life as they know it. With sufficient information retrieved, a profile is made and uploaded onto the database, making anything related to the victim available to the public eye. At this point, any stranger lurking the deep web can view images and every thorough detail on the victim. Multiple threats are sent out to the targets and their family members in exchange for money. Simply pay a hefty price or allow the entire internet to track you and your loved ones down. Each profile currently on the website is in the midst of identity theft and exploitation, left to be seen by millions across the realms of the deep web. Do no harm simply doesn't apply to some doctors. A website that was once frequently monitored, The Human Experiment, consisted of an underground team of doctors and assistants who performed and documented sadistic Nazi-inspired medical experiments on socially invisible citizens, such as homeless people. Each patient is kidnapped and placed into separate warehouses where doctors perform gruesome tests, such as injecting diseases into the individuals, experimenting on pregnant women and fetuses, inflicting pain onto the patient until death, and exposing patients to radiation poisoning. Once the patients succumb to their brutal experiments, the bodies are disposed in dumpsters of meat shops, avoiding any form of suspicion. The site was taken down in 2011 and has since been left in the archives of the deep web. It is unknown if the medical team has continued documenting their experiments online. However, searching for torture methods on humans is only ever a few clicks away. The role of director goes to the highest bidder. Going much deeper into darker realms of the deep web, users are able to access domains commonly known as red rooms. Viewers can either be invited or they can simply pay their way in. Once entering the red room, the audience has an option to watch slaves from countries such as Africa and the Middle East tortured and killed in real time. The gruesome advantage beyond watching is having the opportunity to command just how the victim is tortured. The higher amount of money put down on the live show equates to additional ways the viewer can torture victims to death. However, payment ranges in the hundreds of thousands and is usually run by wealthy individuals. Red Room sessions start off with an adult man or woman bound up in rope or chains while facing the camera for the audience. The user who pays the most gets the first call to decide the fate of the victim. Mutilation and torture can initiate in multiple ways, such as severely beating the victim, cutting off each limb without anesthesia, burning or skinning them alive until death. Many users who have lurked red rooms out of curiosity have reported not reaching the end of a session due to the traumatizing screams from the victims. A disturbing place where fetishism and animal torture meet. The Cruel Onion Wiki is home to promoting the horrific mutilation, rape, and death of animals. One of the popular features on the site include video footage of women crushing live animals such as dogs, cats, and rabbits with different parts of their bodies. Many of the videos start with a clear view of the animal in a secluded space such as a closed room or cage, a place where the animal is unable to escape its tragic fate. A female then enters and begins initiating the torture by crushing the helpless animal with her bare feet or stiletto heels until severe organ damage results in its death. Videos such as these conclude with the woman displaying pride for her actions, truly a disturbing and upsetting way to see an innocent animal die. Additional videos and images of animals being skinned alive or raped by men have been linked to the Cruel Onion. However, the site has been removed by the FBI, but continues to be replaced for the pleasure of animal torture enthusiasts on the deep web. Some people think 4chan is bad. Many who frequent the deep web are familiar with 8chan. It can be accessed on the surface web. However, certain areas of the site are run by darker, more sinister parts of the deep web. YPA, also known as Your Personal Army, is made up of personal information related to innocent people who are purposely stalked and harassed over the internet. Users post images of the person they wish to target. From there, anonymous users use the victim's personal information to their advantage until they ruin the person's life by threatening and stalking them. Additional areas within 8chan include zoophilia, a section that offers minds alike to upload videos and images related to bestiality and animal abuse. Another chan displays multitudes of images of children under the age of 12 who are mutilated and murdered in third world countries around the world. Some videos can leave permanent scars on those who choose to watch. An underground film company named No Limits Fun circulated some of the most sinister snuff videos to ever reach the internet. A series of films were produced by a group of 5 adults, 2 women and 3 men. One video titled Dafu Love has caused even the most desensitized individuals to question humanity. The snuff film begins with 2 men drinking at a table located in a rundown house. The cameraman leaves the house and makes his way to a yard behind the house where he urinates on a young girl who is tied up with a dog collar and strands of rope. Knowing her circumstances, the child sits in shame as she is unable to move from her spot and cooperates with the man's actions. 2 women eventually come into the shot where they are both seen holding 2 large bags. Within seconds, 5 infants, no older than a year old, are thrown out of the bags and onto the ground. A third man is then seen making his way to a truck where he grabs a sturdy toolbox and proceeds to walk towards the infants. It's at this point when all 5 of the members circle around the children, where they begin to engage in disturbing sexual acts one by one. Violent acts such as smacking the children and raping each child as they take turns progresses until each adult finishes. Traumatic moments occur shortly after when the women hand out a chisel from the toolbox and a chainsaw to the men, where they begin to violently stab and dismember 2 of the infants to death. The video eventually cuts to a scene of the adults drinking. Intoxicated, both women take 2 of the babies and begin tossing the children as if they were having a human pillow fight, causing the skulls of the children to severely fracture, resulting in each of their deaths. The film concludes with the 5th baby being stabbed to death with a pair of scissors aimed at the child's eyes and stomach. The snuff film has been distributed around the deep web for thousands of dollars and has resulted in numerous downloads since its release. A video that often requires its viewers to seek therapy after watching. Between 2011 and 2014, Australian native Peter Scully made his way into the Philippines, where he began luring multiple children ages 1 to 13 with the help of his 2 teenage girlfriends. The 3 would engage in kidnapping their victims by offering each child food on the streets. It was during these years when he began filming the cruel acts of the 3, mercilessly torturing and raping children, eventually uploading the video footage onto the deep web for prices ranging as high as $10,000 and up. His snuff video, Daisy's Destruction, became one of the most disturbing child pornographic videos to ever reach the internet. The video began and ended with the murderous screams from an 18-month-old toddler named Daisy. Anonymous masked men and women would take turns in raping the child, destroying her internal organs for hours until ending her fate by slowly dismembering each of her limbs while keeping her bound and alive. The footage became a hit on the deep web, but it was heavily monitored until it became difficult to retrieve any sufficient links to the video. With the amount of attention towards the film, Peter went into hiding for 4 years until the National Bureau of Anti-Human Trafficking managed to track him down in the Philippines. And upon investigation into the disappearance of his victims, police were able to uncover the grisly remains of a female child under the tiles of his former kitchen. Police were able to tie the remains to a 12-year-old girl that went by the name Barbie. who was tortured, raped, sold, and murdered at the hands of Peter and his team. The National Bureau was able to save 3 children during the investigation, only to learn that Peter would force each of the children to dig deep holes on his land, informing each child that the holes they were digging were their final resting places once he was done raping and mutilating each and every one of them. Peter Scully is currently awaiting trial to determine his fate. Until then, he is incarcerated in the Philippines. Investigators were also able to match the snuff film Dafu Love to Peter and his 2 girlfriends. The men seen in the videos have yet to be found and sentenced for their actions. That's it for this episode. Remember, please take caution. I do not recommend accessing the deep web or the darkest part of the deep web known as the shadow web. Please be well, be safe, and be here next time. Thank you for watching. If this episode gave you the chills or you learned something new, please click the thumbs up button below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking on screen now or below this video. And I'll see you next time.